Hi everybody and welcome to this week's Beginners Online Training. My name is Katie and I'm on the customer engagement team here at Nutritics, and I'm here to help you navigate through the software. So just to give you a quick run through of what we're going to cover today, I'm going to take you through adding a recipe to Nutritics, and then I will talk you through the analysis of that. And then for anyone who is interested in or who is currently on our professional, sports and education editions of Nutritics, I'm going to go through adding a client to the system, analysing a diet log and creating a meal plan. So just before we get stuck in, I just wanted to give you a really quick background on Nutritics. So Nutritics was founded in 2013 by two brothers from Dublin, Damien and Kieran. And back then our CEO Damien was earning a master's in sports nutrition. And he was frustrated by the industry standard software that he was working with himself. So he started building his own database of foods in Excel. And luckily his brother Kieran was a talented designer and a programmer and was confident that he could build something better for Damien to use. So they started working on Nutritics from a bedroom in their parents' house, and the rest is history. So now we have over 80,000 professionals using Nutritics worldwide. And that brings us up to where we are today. So now we know a little bit more about Nutritics, we can get stuck into the software. A few housekeeping rules before we get started. I'm going to keep everybody's mic on mute for the duration of the call. It just makes things a bit easier to get through. If you do have any questions, feel free to write them into the chat box, and please pop in your email address as well. We'll try to come to questions at the end, but if you need to hop off early or if we don't get to your question, we will follow up with everyone via email after the call. You'll also receive a recording of this webinar after the call, so don't feel the need to get bogged down taking notes. Okay, so I'm going to start now. So if there's any issues with sound, please let me know. Otherwise, I will start by sharing my screen with everyone. So you should be able to see the Nutritics login page now. Okay, great. So you might already know this, but Nutritics is a cloud-based software. So that means that you access it online via a web browser, and you access it using the link nutritics.com/app. I'd recommend bookmarking this just for easy access for yourself. You can do this by clicking on the star icon here next to the URL. So you can access Nutritics on pretty much all browsers, but our recommended browser is Google Chrome, just as it's the most up to date. I'm going to go ahead and log into our demo webinar account using my username and my password, and I'll click enter to go in. So when you log in, you'll see that you have two panels. The first panel is your list of clients, and then you have your workspace and the Nutritics Explorer, and this is where you can easily access all of your data. So the client list will only appear for people on the Education Edition, the Sports Edition, or the Healthcare Edition of Nutritics. And then for people on the Food Service or Food Manufacturers Editions, you'll only see the My Foods and Recipes section. Here we have the menu where you can see your account information, and you can change your settings, your preferences, and you can access or support resources from this menu as well. We have the start menu here, and this is where you go if you want to add anything new to your account, for example, to add a new client or a new recipe or make a new label. You can also access some tutorials and additional features here. One to point out is the shopping list feature, so you can generate shopping lists from your recipes and your meal plans and your menus. So we'll see in this tile format here that we have a few different options. I'll just go through a few of those quickly. So a new food allows you to add a single ingredient using nutritional information. So if you have a back-of-pack label, or if you have information from an online database, you can add that to your own account. Just to note that it will only be visible to you. It's not published live to anyone else. A new label allows you to choose one of the recipes that's already in your account and to export it to our label maker tool, where you can create front or back of pack labels for your products if you have that feature on your account. New recipe allows you to combine ingredients together into a recipe and see information such as nutrition, allergens, costings, etc. And this feature is available to and is used by all of our clients across our different plans. So that's available to everyone. I'm going to start by showing you how to create a new recipe. So I'll click on New Recipe. The first thing that we do is we name our recipe. I'm going to make a sample smoothie, so I'll just type that in. The description here is optional, and whatever you type in here will act as searchable keywords, so you can use them to find the recipe later on. I'm going to say strawberry and banana. Right, now let's add some ingredients to the recipe. To do this, you can search for ingredients using the search bar in the top left corner here. I'm going to add in 3 or 4 ingredients just to show you this recipe. As soon as you start entering a few characters, Nutritics will actually start searching automatically. And then all of the searches are weighted by the most used food. So in this case, bananas flesh only is the most commonly used option from these search results. You can filter the search results by selecting any of these categories here. This can come in useful, for example, we would always recommend adding raw ingredients to a recipe and then applying cooking methods later on. So you can use the raw filter here to easily pick out raw ingredients in your search results. Back to our smoothie, I'm going to select banana flesh only. By selecting a food, you get a bit more information on it, so you can see where it's coming from. In this case, GB15 means it's a UK 2015 database. You get the name, a little nutritional breakdown, and then you can see more information on the food if you click the I button here. You'll see the ingredient cost, and this is input by the user. I've already done this for this food. You get a picture of the food, a pie chart breakdown, food labeling information, allergen information, if applicable, any nutrition and health claims that can be used for the food, a full breakdown of the macro and micronutrients. We won't worry too much about this for now. I'll go back and I'll insert the banana into my smoothie recipe by clicking on the banana and clicking insert. You can also drag and drop ingredients into the recipe workspace as well. So that's the first ingredient added into the recipe. Now I'm going to add a couple more. I'll add in strawberries. Same as before, I click on the food and you get some more information on it. And then I'm going to click insert. I'm going to add some orange juice too. As you can see here, the database is slightly different from previous foods. So this one is actually from the Nutritics database. And that means that we source the information ourselves and we added it to the database. You can enable extra databases by going to the menu up here, going into your settings and then selecting databases. I'm also going to add in milk because I want to be able to show you guys the allergens on this recipe. So now all of our ingredients are in, but we don't have any quantities, any descriptions or cooking methods or costings yet. I'll start with the quantities. I'm going to add in, let's say, 1 medium banana by using the Smart Portions box here. Next, I'll add 5 medium strawberries. For the orange juice, we can manually enter a quantity. I'm going to add in 100 mils. Just to note actually on that, you can switch between the metric and the imperial system again just by going up to the menu, settings and then preferences. I'm going to put in 100 mils of milk. Nutritics automatically works out the description here based on the gram weights of the ingredients. If you're not happy with the description, it's a free text box so you can change it. I'm not going to worry about cooking methods for this recipe as this is a smoothie, but for other dishes or other recipes you can choose the cooking methods, and that just takes into account any nutrient losses during the cooking process. You'll see that for this recipe, costings are being automatically updated as we go along, and that's because I've added in costs for this account. So I've added costs for each of these ingredients already. Costs can be added to individual ingredients as I showed you earlier on the banana, or you can also add them from within the recipe itself by clicking here.
Here we can add different products or portion size options. I can specify that this recipe is 3 servings, and Nutritics will automatically work out the weight of servings for me. I can add additional servings. For example, I'll say one small smoothie is 100 mils. You can also say you want a 100 calorie smoothie, and Nutritics tells you how much of the recipe that you need for that portion. The calories and costs are automatically updated for you. Here we're shown the cost to produce the serving and the recommended retail price. Tax is included in the sales price here, but if you want to change that, or if you want to change the tax rate itself, you can do that from the main menu, Settings, Preferences, Sales and Finance. Here you can also set the default profit margin on all your recipes. If we go back to the recipe, you can make your profit margin product specific by clicking on the portion's recommended retail price and adding an individual profit margin. You have the option to add the final sale price here too if you like.
So next we're going to move on to the allergens and properties section. So allergens are automatically flagged for you based on the ingredients in the recipe. You'll see that milk is already on. Down here it says that you can hover over an active allergen to see contributing sources. So if I hover over the milk allergen, I can see this allergen is coming from the ingredient milk, whole, pasteurized, average. It's obvious in this case, but it might not be for other allergens or recipes. The properties along the top here, these are customizable and you can turn them on or off.
If applicable, Nutritics will suggest dietary properties based on the ingredient information. For example, if all of the ingredients in the recipe were tagged as being vegan or vegetarian, Nutritics would suggest that we update the recipe properties to show this. I'll clear the milk from the recipe to show you this now. You'll see now that the system has suggested we update the properties, and you can click to do so.
Next, we'll scroll down to the nutrition and health claims section. So Nutritics will automatically indicate nutrition and general function health claims based on the nutrient profile of your recipe. So for example, for this recipe, we can say that it's high in vitamin C, and then we can select a health claim associated with that vitamin. Nutritics won't indicate any claims that you can't use. This feature is amazing for upselling your dishes and your products based on their nutritional content, and we've actually seen companies increase their sales by as much as 25% since using nutrition and health claims on their packaging. So there really is a consumer demand for them. Just to note though, that is one of our premium features. Next, we have our quantitative ingredient declaration, or our QID, and this is for back-pack labeling and is totally customizable. If you want to make any changes, we recommend doing this on the ingredient level. So go back up to your ingredient list and then click on the quantity of the ingredient and then go to the custom fields tab. And then here you can edit the ingredient list for each food in the recipe, and then that will update the overall ingredient list for this recipe. If we scroll back down, we see we have cooking instructions and notes here. So this is just a free text box and you can write whatever you like in here. For example, step 1, chop fruit. You can also attach images here. Down at the bottom, we have the full nutritional breakdown per 100 grams or per 100 mils. It's pretty straightforward. You have all your macro and your micronutrients. If we scroll up, you'll see that we have a food labeling section here. You can adjust the format of the labeling information based on your location. And the food labeling is automatically given to you per 100 mils. But if we add in the total servings in the recipe, you'll also be given the value per serving. You'll see that Nutritics applies the traffic light labeling system. So for this recipe, sugars are relatively high. And then one of our premium features, the reformulation tool, gives you suggestions on how to improve the nutrient profile of your recipe. So how to reduce the salt, the fat and the sugar content.
So I could click on the light bulb icon beside any amber or red traffic lights to see the suggestions, and then preview them to see what your modified recipe would look like. To the right here, we have the option to create a food label, and any food labels that are made for a recipe will also be displayed and accessible here, but I'll come back to labels in a minute. Below this is the modifiers and properties section. So here we see the total weight of the recipe ingredients, and we can account for any moisture loss during cooking. So click on either the weight change or the weight after cooking buttons. This brings up a menu, and you can enter the weight of the recipe after cooking, or where weighing isn't possible, you can select a weight change factor to estimate the weight change. But because this is a smoothie, it's not cooked, so I'm going to leave the weight change factor as 1. Below this is where you can tag additional custom data onto your recipes by clicking New Field. You can add new fields such as prep time, cooking time, shelf life. Scrolling up, we have the grouping and sharing section where you can organize, and you can also share your food and recipe with other Nutritics users. So to show the grouping function, I'm going to add this recipe to an existing group that I have here called Smoothie. So just click on the group, or I could create a new group by clicking here. And then all your recipe groups can be accessed from the drop down when I click on my recipes. Or I can access it using the Nutritics Explorer here. We really recommend setting up your groups in the beginning. It really saves time and makes managing your data easier in the long run. Groups are especially helpful if you tend on building menus in Nutritics, because you can drag and drop entire groups onto menus. So you could have a blank menu and then drag and drop, for example, a group of starters, a group of mains, and dessert to make a menu in seconds. In the recipe overview, you can add a photo from your computer, or you can enter the image URL if you find one online. We also have a pie chart breakdown. This just gives the macronutrient content of the recipe. It gives you a snapshot of the nutritional content. It can be helpful for recipe development, or it might just be of interest to customers or clients. Once your recipe is complete, you have a few different export options. So you can export your report, share via live link, email, print, download to PDF Excel, or you can export to the label maker if you have this feature. Just to give you a quick overview of the label maker, you can use one of our pre-made templates, or you can create one from scratch. We have a live preview of what your label looks like here, and you can add elements to your labels such as graphics, nutrition information, an ingredient list, best before dates, etc. by ticking on the elements here. But I won't go into too much detail on that. But we do have a section on our support center dedicated to the label maker, and you can always contact us at support@nutritics.com if you have any questions. So that's the recipe done. Now I'm going to move on to creating a client, a meal plan, and a diet log. If you're on the food service edition, feel free to leave now, or you can stay and see how the food service edition can integrate into other platforms. Just to get started again, I'll go back to the page that we see when we first log in. If anyone has any questions right now, feel free to type them in the chat box, and like I said, we will follow up with you at the end.
So to create a client, click on the New Client button, or else go to the Start menu and select New Client. I'll set myself up, so I'll specify my gender, enter my name, my surname. Anything with an asterisk needs to be included. So I'll enter my weight, height, and date of birth. Your weight and height are used to work out your BMI and your ideal body weight. You can also add in your waist and hip circumference and your body fat percentage. These are optional, but they are needed for some of the energy calculations. You can also give your client an ID number, which will appear in your list of clients instead of their name. And you can upload an image of your client if you like. If the client is female, you can specify if she is pregnant or lactating. If the client is an infant, you can specify the feed type, if they're breastfed or if they're on breast milk substitutes. I'll set my lifestyle adjustments next. These help estimate your client's physical activity level or their PAL multiplication factor. I'm going to specify that my occupational activity level is sedentary, as I have a desk job, and that I am not an athlete. Next, I'll choose my nutrition target source. So you have a number of options in the drop down, but for this example, I'm going to select the UK SACN guidelines. Then I'll choose my energy calculation formula. You can choose whatever you prefer, but I'm just going to stick with Henry Oxford. And once you've selected your nutrition target source and energy calculation formula, Nutritics quickly gives you your PAL, your RMR, and your estimated energy requirements, or your EER. You can adjust the final EER target for your client to allow for any weight modification goals. Use the plus and minus symbols to add or subtract 100 calories per click, or type directly into the box. I'm going to keep mine as maintain weight. For users with our custom DRV feature, you can customize your client's nutrition targets by clicking Customize. This opens a new tab. You can rename the DRV or apply it to other clients if you like by right-clicking on the tab. You can split the client's weight change by diet and exercise, and easily set custom macro targets using the slider here. You can also manually type in the PAL and RMR and adjust your client's micronutrient requirements. We also have a grouping section, and similar to the recipes, you can add your clients to a group, and then your client groups can be viewed here above your client list. There's also a sharing and collaborators feature here, which allows you to share your clients to your colleagues. You can also add in contact details for your client. We have a mobile app called Libro, which your clients can use to log their diet on their smartphone, and then you can import their diet logs into Nutritics for analysis and feedback, so there will be no more manual entry on your end. And Libro is free to use for both you and your clients and is included on all plans. Premium users can also send custom nutrition and exercise content to their clients. So you can send recipes, meal plans, articles to read, exercises, or even schedule calls and meetings via Libro. If you add your client's email address in here, you'll be able to invite them to download the app. Below this, you can set your client's dietary preferences and allergies. So when you're entering a diet log or creating a meal plan, foods that aren't compatible with your client's allergies will be flagged. Use the notes section here to add client information such as medical history, injuries, surgery, or their health or performance-based goals. Once you're finished, click Done to minimize the detailed client panel. Here you'll see a summary of your client's details, and you also have the option to invite them to download the app from this view. Once your client is set up on Libro, you'll be able to see their login activity from this panel. From here, we can also create or access diet logs, meal plans, and programs for your client. Next, I'm going to move on to creating a diet log. So click on the blue plus button beside logs to get started. If your client has been logging their diet on Libro, you'll see this calendar view. Days where your client has logged are circled in orange, and you can click on any days that you would like to import and click Import. You can see it's all filled out here, so this is the data that the client has input on their phone, so you don't need to manually input anything. Both the food and the activity tabs have been populated. If you do want to manually add in a log, back at the calendar view, you can choose to start from scratch. Give your log a title. You can decide how many days you want in the log, and you can specify how you want to organize the log. You can adjust the date, add in private notes that the client won't see, or add in recommendations for the client that they will see. Similar to creating a recipe, we search on the left and we work on the right. So I'll start by searching for a banana and I'll insert that in. I'll also add in milk. You can drag and drop foods to add them to meals. Now we've logged a couple of foods, we'll specify how much we had on each day. We'll say on day 1 we had 1 cup, 1 serving of milk. And on day 3 we had enough for a bowl of cereal. We'll say we had a medium banana on each day. You can name the days by clicking on them. The name will appear on the final report. I'll open a completed log and I'll show you how to generate a report. Let me just open this client here and select this log. So at the top here you have your DRV and your EER sources. You can select which days or meals you want to look at in the report by clicking on the filter drop down. And if your client is set up in our app Libro, you can share the report with them through the app. Now to look at the report, we read it from left to right. So we have our nutrients, we have our client's intakes based on the foods that they added to their log, we have their nutrient targets, and any upper or lower limits for those nutrients. Over here we have graphs, and the black line is the client's actual intake. The red lines to the left are lower limits, and red lines to the right represent upper limits. The blue lines are the client's recommended intakes based on the DRV source that you selected. As we scroll down, anything in red is in an upper or lower limit and requires attention. For example, fat intake here is quite high and exceeded the recommended upper limit. You can click on any nutrient to hide it in the report, so you can go into as much or as little detail as you like. The blue buttons give you the option of adding line graphs, showing foods that contributed to your client's nutrient intake, and you can do this for any nutrient. For fat, I'm going to add in a nutrient report to give the client a bit more information on their fat intake and just to inform them as to why it's high. You can also add in sample sources to see foods that are high in a nutrient of your choice. And that can be helpful where your client is deficient in a certain nutrient. Down at the bottom, you have macronutrient analysis and the breakdown for each day. You can include the diet log for the client to look back on and any notes. When you're happy with the report, you can export it. So reports are available in multiple languages, and in the report view, just click on the drop down here to change the report language. So that's diet logging and report customization. Next, I'm going to move on to meal planning. So I'll show you how to create a meal plan from scratch. But before we do that, I just wanted to give you a quick tip. If you have imported a client's food diary from Libro, or even if you've manually entered one, you can turn that diet log into a meal plan. Just open up the log and click Export To and then Meal Plans. This is an amazing time saver if you just need to tweak your client's normal diet instead of completely starting from scratch. So that's just something to bear in mind, but I will show you how to use the meal plan tool now. Same as before, the start button or the blue plus button will let you get started. You can create a meal plan from scratch or use a previously created meal plan as a template. I'm going to start from scratch. Give your meal plan a title. Change the date if needed. Choose the nutrients you would like to monitor as we build up the meal plan. We'd recommend a maximum of 5 if you want to print on an A4 sheet. I'll start by adding in my first food. I'm going to add in toast. You'll notice this page looks a little different from the diet log, but it's still very easy to use. You can give your meal a title. I'm going to call this breakfast. Next, I'll add in butter. Again, add in the quantity box using the smart portions or type directly into the box. And you'll notice that the monitors we previously picked are given for each food. We also have a meal total and an overall plan total. I'll add in another meal and I'll call it snack. I'm going to add in a banana. You can also add in recipes, so I'm going to add in the smoothie that we made earlier. When you add a recipe to a meal plan, it's like taking a snapshot of the recipe. So if you make changes to a recipe and you'd like these changes to be reflected in the meal plan, you can click on the sync button. Otherwise, once you've added the recipe to the meal plan, it will remain unchanged. Here you can specify the number of servings you'd like included in the plan. You can also choose to include cooking instructions for your client. I'll add in one last snack, peanuts. So it looks like the peanuts are in the smoothie, but we don't need to worry about that. We can move them to the meal called snack. Just drag and drop the peanuts into the meal that you want it to go into. And you can also drag your meals to rearrange the order that they are in. Your nutrient targets are based on the DRV source you select. You can change the target here. Down below we have the macronutrient analysis as we saw in the diet log report. And once you finish creating your meal plan, you can click on the grey button to select what will be exported on your report. So you have all your export options as usual, and here you have the option of exporting to a diet log report, and that gives a full analysis and not just your chosen monitors. You can choose to attach your meal plan to other clients by clicking here. And like recipes, you can quickly access all of your meal plans using the Nutritics Explorer. So you can drag and drop meal plans to add them into groups. So that's meal plans covered, and that actually brings us to the end of this online training session. As mentioned, we're going to send a follow-up email shortly with a recording of everything that's been covered today. And I'll also follow up on any questions that have come into the chat box. If you need anything further, you can go to the menu to access tutorials, support, and further training. We also have a user manual on our website which contains step-by-step guides and videos on each section. And as always, you can always contact support@nutritics.com if you need help. Thanks for listening everyone, and hopefully see you again soon.